What I'm going to do in this one is I'm going to use the golden ratio and see how we can apply that to photographs. And I'm actually going to use one of your homework, semis, to show you what I mean, and to show you what to look, what kinds of photographs to look for, where to look for them, the whole thing. So this is what she has. She has 3 photographs. They are right here. And what I did is I created, let me just close these here real quick. I created 4 different directions of the golden ratio. So this first one here is what I did is I just opened the file in Illustrator that I had opened before, but then I added another file to it, which is this one right here. I just downloaded the SVG file of that, opened it in Illustrator. Now there's a whole bunch of layers here. I closed all of them except the one that has the full spiral. I took the spiral, copied it, pasted it into Photoshop, rotated it, holding the Shift key down, don't forget to do that, then holding the Alt key, and then Alt and Shift together, and scaling it, and then it will fit perfectly inside those rectangles. Now I'm going to delete that because I have it already, but anyway, that's how I added that one. And we need that one for the photographs. When we select photographs, we really do need to have that spiral as well, because the photographs will have informational visual content where this actually becomes important. Does it really fit here? So now let's actually start with semis and let's check it out. So we have the straight thing here, and as you can see, so here, like right around here, would be important informational content that we would be looking for, and then also right along this curve here and inside this curve. And as you can see, there's not much here that is really corresponding to that. So let's look at the other one. Here maybe the edge of the wooden board a little bit, but not really. Now this burger here is below that. Could this photograph maybe be improved upon if we scaled it and let's see, and kind of tried to get the burger into a more prominent kind of location? Would that work? Well, you tell me. I don't think so. Let's see. No, not really. So let's just go back to that. And then finally we have this one here, where again, like this, it doesn't give us much. With this, maybe a little bit here. Let me just close this here. And with this, a little bit here. And then it follows the curves a little bit here. And then this kind of runs parallel to this, so that might be something. And then when we look at it like this, then we really don't have much at all that is following the curve or staying inside this swirl or anything like that. But I just realized that I forgot to check this one in different ways. So here again, we don't have it. Let's see. Here, well, no. And here, well, maybe a little bit with these pickles, but not that much. So one of the things that you need to be looking for when you are looking for photographs is essentially what this whole thing means is the photograph that you're looking for. Does it have a focal point? Does it have a focal point? And does it have a good direction? Is there something that gives us a good direction, like so? Or does it have a focal point that we can actually bring to use? Or does it separate itself into good areas? So we need to be looking at all of these. And with the area separation, there are other things that we could do that would improve even these photographs, and you would see that. You will see that in just a minute when I do that. But for now, let's actually go over to here, and let's start looking at the free high-resolution photography websites where we can actually get good photographs from. But what do we look for when we are getting these photographs? Because we need to look for them with a special eye. We can't just pick any photograph because it just shows what we are looking for. We also need to make sure that it shows what we are looking for in a really good way. Now there are four that I'm going to recommend. The first one is Pexels. The second one is Pixabay. The third one is Unsplash. And the fourth one is FreePic, where you will also find a huge number of photographs on pretty much every topic. But let's start with Pexels right here. And before we actually start looking, now let me just go back here real quick and let's talk about Umumi Karga for a second. Now this is a bistro slash bar slash club, right? So we need, in terms of content, we need things that are, one, either appetizing, two, that remind us of having a good time, three, that show people that are having a good time, or good-looking people. Since it's a bar, it will have music, so there could be music stuff, there could be DJs, there could be things like that. But one way or another, the photographs are going to have to be alive. They shouldn't be like this. Now, if it shows a bar, then it should not be an empty bar with nobody sitting here. It should be a busy bar with people, with having drinks, having a good time, It should probably not be a daytime photograph. This looks kind of like a bar on a beach, a tiki bar or something like that. If we're going to show food, which is perfectly acceptable, then I think it should be far more appetizing than this. And believe me, there are amazing food photographs, especially on FreePic. If you want to show a burger like this, I mean, we'll see some burgers in a little while. And so this is probably the most appropriate amongst these three. But again, it should have something more. It should have more of a bite, I think. So the photograph that we're looking for should have more of a personality than what we are seeing right here. So let's go back to here and let's type in club. And now we need to look for photographs that are actually going to show us how much fun people are having in a club, or what beautiful people go to a club, or the music, or lots and lots of things. However, we should, while we are looking for them, we should also be thinking about, guess what? This right here. Is the photograph that we're looking for going to have a focus that is kind of going to fit into this system? Like this, like this, like this, like this, in many different directions. But is it going to be the kind of photograph that is going to be suitable for having a focus and also having a direction? So we're going to be looking for that as well. And we're also going to be looking at photographs that have a certain amount of negative space. Now, negative space is something that I'm going to be talking about at length in a separate tutorial, which I will make soon because it is an important topic. But basically what it means is we look for areas in pictures or in any kind of visual material, really, layouts also, that is empty of informational content. So in a photograph, this would usually be the background, like this here or this here. I have already saved these two photographs, by the way, because they do have good negative space, and that is something that I would be looking for if I was going to replicate what Simai wants to do, because as far as I can tell, she wants to use full photographs, so photographs that go from the edge to the edge, from top to bottom, that cover the entire area. Now that's a full photograph, a full sized, well, I wouldn't call it full sized. In Turkish we call it silme, and in English we call it a bleed. So it's a bleed photograph, so it bleeds from all the four corners, edges, and that's how she wants to do it. So, and I want to kind of replicate what she wants to do. So I would be looking for photographs that have a lot of negative space to put here, which is something that she wasn't paying a lot of attention to. This photograph does not have a lot of negative space, only a little bit down here where we have kind of the floor. And then if we look at the others, hang on, where are they? Here there's a little bit up here in the blurry background, and here there's a little bit here in the blurry background. However, this is already has quite a lot of stuff going on. Even though it's blurry, there's quite a bit of detail that we can see here. So we would be looking for something that looks more like this. Now, once you like a photograph, what I would advise you to do is, first of all, I would advise you to set up an account, which you can do very easily by just linking your Instagram or your Facebook or whatever social media that you have, and then you can create collections. So let me just, here are the collections that I have. Most of these as well, not free pick, but these three will create a collection which consists of your downloads. But then you can create other collections too. You can I'm not sure if you can actually create a new collection right here. The way it works is that you click on this, you say collect, and then you either put it into one of the folders that you already have, or you make a new collection. You give it a name, and then you just put it in there. So what I would advise you to do is, before you download a whole bunch of images, I would actually make collections and put them all together, and then look at them like that. So I'm just scrolling down here just a little bit to see whether there's anything else here that I might want to have that has good negative space, since we are going to be using the photograph as a bleed, as a silme. Now this here, for example, I wouldn't use, because although it does have quite a bit of negative space up here, because I'm not sure that I would be able to fit it in to the golden ratio scheme. So let me close Simai's photographs and her logo. So we have this, right? We have the golden ratio scheme, and we also have the spiral. So when I look at this photograph here and I try to kind of imagine, now obviously the focal point would be up here somewhere, and then what would happen here? Would this be interesting enough? And then we have this red band going up here. Would that seriously interfere with this focal point? Yes, I think it would. So for those reasons, I don't think that I would be using this photograph. And then let me, I mean, this is a really ugly photograph anyway, but just as an example, now where would the focus be here? It would probably be here somewhere, which means what would happen with these? Would they actually fit here? Well, we would obviously, in that case, we would be using this one here. So the focal point, if the focal point is here, then what happens to these? Let's go back. No, see, they won't really work. So this is probably not a good one to use either, not only because it's a really yucky looking photograph with really strange colors, but also because it is not going to give us a good focal point, which is something that we want to keep in mind. So those are the kinds of things that you need to bear in mind. Now I picked these two because and you will see in a minute how they turned out to be, because I can tell that the focal point would be here somewhere, and then we have a nice direction coming in here. We have a lot of negative space that we can play around with to scale this thing up or down or whatever. So this would be a really good one to use, not only because it's a very nice photograph showing a very pretty girl in a club where we can tell from this open sign here, but also because it gives us some good clues as to composition. And again, it has negative space, which for a bleed photograph, for a silhouette photograph, is very, very, very important. And I'm only here on Pexels. You can do a search on Unsplash, which is, I already have a club search going here. Let me see, would there be something here that I might be interested in? This here, no, not really. Where would the focus be? Here, maybe. And also it doesn't look like a club, it looks more like a concert. Although I do have another one where it looks like a concert, but it was such a good photograph that I did download that, and I am going to show you how I used it. This here, yes, probably the focus would probably be her hand, and I would probably take a crop, which is sort of something like this. So would this photograph actually allow me to take a crop like that? What's the original size? It's kind of not large enough, because although it's a pretty large photograph, I would only really be needing about this much of it. In which case I would need to overblow it, and then I would get pixel artifacts, so that one I wouldn't use either. This here, yes, I might use. And meanwhile we have the prayers going in the background. Don't pay any attention. Well, I mean, if you're religious, do pay attention, but not right now because you're in a tutorial. Would I use this? Yeah, potentially. Where would the focus be? The focus, it would be difficult to put a focus on this one that also works with the golden ratio, but probably somewhere in here. I would need to try it out. I am not going to do it, however, because I don't want to extend this tutorial unnecessarily. I'm just going through these things here to give you an idea of how you should be curating photographs. Is this one? Yeah. This would be the focal area, and then I would probably be taking a crop like this. Is the size big enough for me to do that? No, not really. It's the height is not enough to put in an extended A4 for a folder. This here, yeah, could be. Obviously the focus would be here. Again, is it big enough? Yeah, this would probably be big enough. So that's how you look. Now, just before we go back to Photoshop, so I was saying, while we were looking at Simai's things, if you want a burger, there are really amazing burgers out there, and the place to look for them would be Freepik, where they have very, very good food photographs. And again, I would be looking for something that has a lot of negative space, a lot of empty space surrounding the burger. So I wouldn't be looking at this. If I take a crop out of this and put it here, it wouldn't look much better than this, because, you know, you would get this really kind of like we don't want to have this much meat detail, do we? So let me close this. I would go for this one here because it has all this negative space. I would click on this to see what else they are showing me, because that's the other thing. When you click on a photograph on Freepik, it will give you other photographs as well. So would this be good? Well, no, probably not really, because I would need to rotate it. Where would I put the focus? Here, would that work? The bun? I'm not sure. No, this one is probably not that suitable. Again, these, I think they would be too close. Let's see. This here, I wouldn't put this much meat. I would try to make the meat less visible. Maybe because I'm a vegetarian, I don't know, but I wouldn't want to see that much meat. This here, yes, I would use this one here. There's plenty of negative space here. This one here, yes, absolutely. This one here, yep. You could get a very nice crop out of this, and then the focus would be here somewhere. So, that's what you would be looking for. You would be looking for an image, if you want to use a burger, let's say, or this here. This would be great. In fact, I think I already downloaded this to try it out. Where would the focus be? It would be here probably, and then we would probably get the curve right in here. Let me actually double check and make sure that I have this downloaded, because that's something that, yeah, I have it right here, that I would definitely want to try out. So again, you look for photographs that have a negative space, a background. If you're going to be showing something like a burger or meat or something like that, I would probably not look for things that show that meat so in such a close-up way, because that might be off-turning, for at least for some people like me that are vegetarians. And I would, while I'm looking, I would always be thinking about, does this have a focus point? Does this have a good focal point that I can actually utilize together with the golden ratio diagram? Are the colors nice? Is it a sharp photograph? Like, for example, this one here. This is a very nice crisp photograph. I can even tell from the small size. All of these here, no, I wouldn't use these. They are much too close. They would not give me enough of a focal point. They would become confusing. This here, no, not even this here. I mean, with these knives sticking out, that looks kind of stupid, doesn't it? This here, no, because this looks too red. You also have to think about things like that. Okay, so now you know how to, and again, on FreePic you can create collections as well, and again it works in the same way. You collect something, and then, like, just for the hell of it, let's say I want to collect this, I can either make a new collection or I can add it to one of the existing ones. I don't want to do that right now, but that's how you do it. And I would always advise you to create collections on all of these before you actually do your download, so that you see everything together, you get an idea of what you have, and then make a secondary selection and then download that. And also, another thing, I would always download more than you actually need. I have a lot here, like, as you can see, and a lot of these I'm not going to use. In fact, I already played around with these, and quite a few of them I didn't use because they weren't working. So you should always have more than what you actually think you're going to need. So I have 18 here. I'm not going to use 18. I'm going to use much less, obviously, but I have that. I have given myself that choice. So one thing that I did before we get started is I made a version of Simai's logo which doesn't have these boxes, because I think these boxes are a huge deterrent to be used with photographs. They restrict us, they constrict us. So I made one which is actually free floating, and I made it white, but I can always easily change it back to black, of course. That's no problem at all. So, and what will happen is that I will try to put this logotype and the photographs together according to rules, according to proportions, and I will also be adding some other elements to facilitate that, to make that even easier. So I've done some work on this to speeden things up a little bit. So I already showed you the photographs that I had collected previously. I took a number of those and just put them in a folder, photos from web. I scaled them, I adjusted everything to the golden ratio, and I'm just going to go quickly over what I did to explain to you how I got things to work or not to work. So we're going to start from this here. Oh, before that. Now, something else that I did is I added two rectangles. One white, this one down here, and one black, the opacity of which is currently at 50, but it's actually a full black thing, and I keep playing. I'm going to keep playing with that while I do the tutorial, because it will need adjustments depending on the photograph that it is put on. And the reason why I did that is because I know from years and years of experience that actually this will help even photographs that are problematic. So if we look at Simai's photographs again, and here's the rectangle. In this case I would make this full black. Now, if I close this and open Simai's logo and close my logo, this is how it used to look. What I added to this are the rectangles. Close that logo and put this logo in its place. I made this a vertical. Simai had it as a horizontal logo, but what I know, again, from past experience, is that when you have a vertical format, right, a portrait format, one that is vertical, then having vertical elements inside a vertical format will usually be much easier, it will work much better, which is why I made this into a vertical. Now, the way that I placed it is according to this right here. So, if we zoom in, it sits on this line and it touches this here. Now it will also work with these, although there won't be any references here. I mean, you won't be able to see these lines, but it will still work with those as well, because we can combine these measurements. The important thing is that we always have a relationship of 1.6 to 1. So this is 1.6, this is 1, this is 1.6, this is 1, and so on and so forth. So if you have it sitting correctly in one area, then it will be correct no matter whether you have that diagram behind it or not. Okay, now the burger, even that is looking better, as you can see, and this here also, because we have added some negative space to these photographs. Now, one of the problems with these photographs was that they had very little negative space, and when you have it like this, it's busy, 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 except for the little bit not so busy down here. But then when you add the rectangle, then you are adding a negative space on top of the photograph in this case, and in that way you are making things work much better. Now, they work in her case. Now let's look at the ones that I got for me. Now, with this one here, I would actually make this less opaque. I would make it more transparent. But what you will see with this photograph, so I'm just going to show you something else here that is going to come in useful. Now, this photograph is actually getting cut off here, and when you look at it you think that it's black, but then when you put a black solid behind it, you can tell, if you zoom in, that it's actually not completely black. There's a difference here, So what you would need to do with something like this is you would need to soften that up. So you go to this one here, and you can do that even with a smart object photograph, and you say layer mask, reveal all, and that will add a mask. Then you go to the gradient tool, and you make sure that in the basics you have this one here selected, which is from black to transparent. Okay? Now this is quite important. The black will erase things, it will get rid of things. If you have a white here, it will add things, but the transparent will just erase things, and you can repeatedly stroke it with the gradient tool. So you have the transparent thing enabled, you have the opacity set at 100%, and you have the straight gradient. And then basically what you do is, I'm just going to close this so that you can, actually let me close all of these so that you can get a good idea of what I'm doing here. You press down your shift key so that you are going at exactly 90 degrees, and then you just do this and this, and now you have gotten a smooth transition, a soft transition, and now you no longer have that difference in tone. Now that difference in tone, you may say, oh, but that was so little, who's going to see that? Trust me, people will see that. So I have this at 50, maybe I need to make it more opaque, maybe like so. So now let's check the ratio, the diagram. It's this one right here. So this is the focal point, is what? The lemon and the ice. The lemon goes a little bit above the focal point, which is perfectly okay. And then as a bonus we have the brandy glass nicely following the curve. Now when I was looking for this photograph, which I found on FreePic, I actually thought about these things. I said to myself, if I have the focus point here, then would this fit inside the curve? Let me try this out with the cherries. And then of course I also scaled it, so the actual size of the photograph is quite large. It's like this. So a lot of it is staying outside. Here, let's look at it like this. Where is it? Huh. Don't I have it here? Didn't I put that in the folder? I guess I didn't. Sorry about that. But anyway, it's a wide photograph, which has a lot of copy space, it's called. I'm not using that, obviously. I scaled it down just exactly to the point where I needed it, and then that's what I used. So that was photograph number 1. Now we have the bartender pouring some salt on some exotic drink. So I have 2 bartender photographs. I thought this one was going to work really nicely. It didn't. Total waste of time. So I got rid of it. But this one did work. And that's the one that you're looking at right now. So again, let's see how we have it here. What I did with this one here is, yeah, that's what I did. So the focal point is right here between the orange and these 2 straws. The curve is coming in very nicely into this little thingy, whatever that is, like a squeezing thing or something, and then we have the logo here. Then I have a martini glass, where I would probably reduce the opacity of this to something like this, maybe 60. And let's see, here, as far as I remember, yes, again I use this here, except the olive, which should be the focal point, is falling a little bit below the actual spiral, but then we have the toothpick and then we have the edge of the glass, so that kind of already gives us that focus as well. And because it's a very minimalist image with a lot of negative space, this still works even though we have fallen slightly outside of the golden ratio. Now we have these guys here. Again, this is, let me see, how big is this? Yeah, this is a pretty big image with, let me see, what else did they have here? I mean, I could also maybe have used it like this. This looks okay too, doesn't it? Or used it, well, I wouldn't have used it like this, but anyway. So this is how I did use it. In this case, I would maybe even, no, not bring it up to 100, but let's see, 40 maybe. So again, you have to do a lot of jewelry work here. So the focal point here again is like right in here with this flowery thing, and you know, this here. Now I could probably move this over a little bit and have it go exactly inside that spiral, but I don't want to do that, because what I want to do is I want to break this glass right through the middle. So you can even see the little glass break here, like so. I'm going to actually get rid of that. I want this to kind of cut straight through the middle compositionally, and then have the focal point be here. Now this is one of my favorites. This worked out really nicely. So with this one I would make this completely black. As you can see, I'm not really fiddling around with the white one. That I'm just leaving at 30%, and that seems to be fine. So, oops, sorry. This here. So here's this focal point. It's our face very clearly, and then we have the curve coming right in with the DJ table. Now the reason why I made this completely black is because if I have this at a lesser value, then I start getting these little itty bitty things in the background, and I simply think it works better if we have a big chunk of negative space here, because then we can really focus on her face, because that's what we want to do. Same with this one here. That's the pretty girl I was talking about. Sorry. Here's the spiral, here's the focus, here's the curve, which follows her arm. We have a hint of the open, we don't see all of it. I could have made this smaller, I think, and then maybe we could have had that as well, a bit more, possibly like this. And then finally we have this concert thing right here, which again, you know, with all these hands raised up, it does look a little bit like a concert, not more than a club, but it's a really good image, and I did want to use it. Here in this case I'm going to bring this down to something like 40 or 30 even, because I think the more we have of this background, the nicer it gets. Now here's the issue with this. This doesn't really correspond to any of the golden ratio things. So I mean, if I use this one here, I get a little bit of some, but that's not really the focus, is it? The focus is the guy's face, and the guy's face I can't fit in to any of these systems, and that's something that will happen. But the good news is that we have the logo sitting in exactly the correct position here, and that saves the day, because you have to always think about the images that you're using together with the typography that you're using. And actually the way it works is that typography is number 1 and the images are number 2. So the images and things like the rectangle and so on. So because this is sitting in the correct location to this here, and then this here is just following the curve, and then this area here is staying inside the big rectangle. So let me just close this. So this area here is a little bit lighter, as you can see, and then when we open this, this is where we have the golden, not the spiral, but the golden ratio diagram is getting cut off here, exactly like this. And here we have a lighter area down here, so that is working with that as well. And then on top of that, we also have the two rectangles. Sorry, hold on. Yeah, like these here. So we have the rectangles in the correct area. So that's how this one then works. And so now I'm finally just going to add one of those burgers, and then also that woman with the champagne glass in front of the red curtain, to show you some tricks about how to scale photographs in Photoshop. And now for the red lady. Just going to drag this on here and just press enter. Now we can either flip this and then scale it in such a way that it'll fit right in here, or we can do something else, because when we do this, then we suddenly have the logo in a strange place and all kinds of bad things start to happen, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put her in her correct direction, and I'm going to open this here, close the rectangles, close the logo, and scale this to that. Now, one thing that you can do that is going to maybe help, I don't know, I need to try this. Now there's a little box here. If you right now, if you zoom in here, this is just these two crossing lines. If you check this, then suddenly you get this anchor point here, and that you can then add to the area that you actually want to scale from, and then, oops, no, it doesn't work like that, does it? Oops, sorry. Well, yes, it does work like that, but you can't move the image. Now I'm going to put this here and scale it some more, like so. So now I have everything sorted out, right? So she's here, the glass is right there in the focal point, but what's going to happen to the rectangles and the logo? So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to select both of these folders and go to Edit, Transform, Rotate 180 degrees, which is now going to make it correspond to this here, to this one here, to one of the flipped, or rather, this isn't flipped, this is just flipped to the right. And then I'm just going to do a fine tuning. I'm going to adjust it exactly. Sorry. Actually, I also need this in order to adjust the logo. So let me go to the logo. Let me bring that up exactly to where it's supposed to be. Now let's close this, and now here you have it. Now the rectangles have changed hang on, they need to move up, I'm noticing. So then when I open this and this, are they still in the right place? Yep, they are. Okay, so that is how I would get the red curtain lady to work with this particular design. Now the logo seems to fall down a little bit, so let me just look at that again. What I would probably do with the logo now, because it is falling too much to the bottom, I would probably do this. I would align the bold, the carga, to this, and then scale it just a little bit so that that line, the stroke between the crow and the typography gets aligned to that one over there, to this one here, and then this gets aligned to here, and then this is how that would be done. And now finally for the burgers. So let's try them out. Okay, I don't even need to go any further. I can tell that this is not gonna work. I mean, I can scale it a little bit and look at it like that, and I don't even need to look at the spiral or the golden ratio diagram or anything. It won't work simply because it is way too busy with all of these little sesame seeds sprinkled all over the place, and then the way that these green leaves are kind of like going in all different directions. So this is, forget it, this is absolutely not going to work, and you need to be able to recognize something like this right away, that this ain't working. And it won't even work if I do this. It still won't work because there's just too much going on here, and it doesn't really have a direction. So let me just bring this back down to 50. So this one we can forget about. Now let's try this one. Oops. So scale it up. Let's open this. And there you go. Now why is this working? Because it has a lot of negative space. Obviously these chips are sitting right in the spiral, so they do become the focal point rather than the burger. And also because, again, I'm going to say it again, also when it comes to photographs, black, white and gray are your best friends. Now the reason why Simai's burger photograph isn't working as well as, one of the reasons is that there's too much brown, people. If all of this stuff here was gray or grayish, then these bacon pieces would probably become more tasty looking, or this burger would become more, I mean, I doubt it, it's not a good photograph, but it would probably still be an improvement. The reason why this is working as well as it is here is because of all the gray that this photograph has. And then on top of that, it also gives us a very nice focal point. And now let's try this one last one that I was looking at on FreePic, and let's scale this. And I already know that it's going to be this one that this is going to work with the ketchup jar, and we can make this even bigger. and bring it like this. Maybe move it over just a bit more. With these, no. Now we're getting way too much information. But if we move it over like this, so that we only have like about a quarter of the ketchup thingy bowl going into the spiral. Actually, let me make this a little bit smaller. Like so. And again, the reason why it's working is because black, white and gray are your best friends, people, and that's all there is to it. Now here there is obviously a little bit of red in the gray, in that background. If I just close these rectangles, we have a little bit of like a kind of like a suede texture almost, which has a little bit of red, but it's still gray enough to prove to you that black, white and gray are your best friends, and that you always need to look for negative space when you are hunting around for photographs that are going to go full size, that are going to bleed off your page, that are going to be silme, as we call it in Turkish. But now, just as I'm ending this tutorial, I'm noticing something that is a mistake. Now this should never overlap this area here, because it creates a really bad ambiguity. This should always stay below, in such a way that there is no doubt whatsoever that it has nothing to do with that line. So what I would do is I would take the ketchup bowl and just align it to here. So let me show you exactly what I'm doing here. So we have the spiral here, and then we have the line here of the golden ratio diagram. So what I'm doing is I'm taking the bowl and almost catching like a quarter of it, not exactly, but like a quarter of it, and then aligning it like that, so that it actually breaks away from that line. So I'm really glad I caught that before I ended it, because I would not want you to make mistakes like that. Okay people, that's the end of it, and I'll see you later.